Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to our live reading from Krishna Book. We are reading the chapter Stealing the Garments of the Unmarried Gopis. And we were hearing about this pastime yesterday, and we shall continue from there. Upon hearing this appeal by the unmarried gopis to return their garments, Krishna answered, "My dear girls, if you think that you are my eternal servitors and you are always ready to execute my order, then my request is that with your smiling faces, you please come here alone, one after another, and take away your garments. If you do not come here, however, and if you lodge complaints with my father, I shall not care anyway. For I know my father is old and cannot take any action against me." When the gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his order. One after another they came out of the water, but because they were completely undressed, they tried to cover themselves by placing their hands over their body. In that posture, they were all shivering. Their simple presentation was so pure that Lord Krishna immediately became pleased with them. All the gopis who prayed to Katyayani to have Krishna as their husband were thus satisfied. A woman cannot be like that except in front of her husband. The unmarried gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. Being pleased with them, he took their garments on his shoulder and began to speak as follows. "My dear girls, you have committed a great offense by going naked in the river Yamuna. Because of this, the predominating deity of the Yamuna, Varuna, has become displeased with you. Please therefore touch your foreheads with folded palms and bow down before the demigod Varuna in order to be excused from this offensive act." The gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varuna, as well as to be fulfill the desired end of their vows, and ultimately to please their worshipable Lord Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. They became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servitors. Nothing can compare to the Krishna consciousness of the gopis, because the gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Krishna became ingratiated and satisfied by the simple dealings of the gopis, and he immediately delivered their respective garments one after another. Although Krishna cheated the young and unmarried gopis and made them stand like that before him and enjoyed joking words with them, and although he treated them just like dolls and stole their garments, they were still pleased with him and never lodged any complaints against him. This attitude of the gopis is described by Mahaprabhu when he prays, "My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me or trample me under your foot. You may make me broken-hearted, but by never being present before me, whatever you like, you can do, because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally, and I have no other worshipable object." This is the attitude of the gopis toward Krishna. Lord Krishna was pleased with them, and since they all desired to have him as their husband, he told them, "My dear well-behaved girls, I know of your desire for me and why you worshipped God Katyayani, and I completely approve of your action. Anyone whose full consciousness is always absorbed in me, even if in lust, is elevated. As a fried seed cannot fructify, so any desire in connection with my loving service cannot produce any fruitive result as in ordinary karma." There is a statement in Brahma Samhita, "Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam." Everyone is bound by his fruitive activities, but the devotees, because they work completely for the satisfaction of the Lord, suffer no reactions. Similarly, the gopis' attitude toward Krishna, although seemingly lusty, should not be considered to be like the lusty desires of ordinary women. The reason is explained by Krishna himself. Activities in the devotional service to Krishna are transcendental to any fruitive result. So bhakti helps us by not binding us to this material world, because everything what we are doing, we are offering it to Krishna. We are not doing the activities for our own personal enjoyment. Krishna is the enjoyer, is the one who all the activities are given to. My dear gopis, Krishna continued, your desire to have me as your husband will be fulfilled, because it is with this desire that you worship goddess Katyayani. I promise you that during the next autumn season, you shall be able to meet me and you shall enjoy me as your husband. Later, Krishna, in the company of his cowherd boyfriends, took shelter of the shade of some trees and became very happy. Thus he addressed the inhabitants of Vrindavan. My dear Stok Krishna, my dear Varutpa, my dear Bhadrasena, my dear Sudama, my dear Subala, my dear Arjun, my dear Vishala, my dear Rishabha, just look at these most fortunate trees of Vrindavan. They have dedicated their lives to the welfare of others. Individually, they are tolerating all kinds of natural disturbances, such as hurricanes, torrents of rain, scorching heat, and piercing cold. But they are very careful to relieve our fatigue and give us shelter. My dear friends, I think they are glorified in this birth as trees. They are so careful to give shelter to others that they are like noble, highly elevated, charitable men who never deny charity to one who approaches them. No one is denied charity. By these trees, they supply various kinds of facilities to human society, such as leaves, flowers, fruit, shades, root, bark, flavor, extracts, and fuel. They are the perfect example of noble life. They are like a noble person who has sacrificed everything possible, his mind, body, activities, intelligence, and words for the welfare of all other living entities. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead walked on the bank of the river Yamuna, touching the leaves of the trees and their fruits, flowers and twigs, and praising their glorious welfare activities. Different people may accept certain welfare activities to be beneficial for human society according to their own views, but the welfare activity that can be rendered to the people in general for eternal benefit is the spreading of the Krishna conscious movement, or the Krishna Bhavan Amrita, like they say in Hindi or Sanskrit. Everyone should be prepared to propagate this movement as instructed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One should be humbler than the grass on the ground and more tolerant than the tree. The toleration of the tree is explained by Lord Krishna himself, and those who are engaged in the preaching of Krishna consciousness should learn lessons from the teaching of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya through their direct disciplic succession, through the spiritual master, who in turn is connected to his spiritual master, and then eventually they are connected at the top to Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only left 8 verses 500 years ago, because when he came as Krishna, he had left everything. Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita was there. So those 8 verses are called Shikshashtakam. And they are so wonderful, those verses. Perhaps in future we will look on them. They describe ocean of love between devotees and the Lord, and how a devotee should serve the Lord. While passing through the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna, Krishna sat down at a beautiful spot and allowed the cows to drink the cold and transparent water of the Yamuna. Being fatigued, and the other cowherd boys with Krishna and Balaram also drank the same. After seeing the young gopis bathing in the Yamuna, Krishna passed the rest of the morning with the boys. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 22nd chapter of Krishna, stealing the garments of the unmarried Gopi girls. Chapter 23, delivering the wives of the Brahmanas who performed sacrifices. The morning passed and the cowherd boys were very hungry because they had not eaten breakfast. They immediately approached Krishna and Balaram and said, "Dear Krishna and Balaram, you are both all-powerful. You can kill many demons, but today we are much afflicted with hunger, and this is disturbing us. Please arrange for something that will mitigate our hunger." Requested in this way by their friends, Lord Krishna and Balaram arranged to show compassion on certain wives of Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices. These wives were great devotees of the Lord, and Krishna took this opportunity to bless them. He said, "My dear friends, please go to the house of the Brahmanas nearby. They are now engaged in performing Vedic sacrifices known as Angiras, for they desire elevation to the heavenly planets. All of you, please go to them." Then Lord Krishna warned his friends, "These Brahmanas are not Vaishnavas. They cannot even chant our names, Krishna and Balaram. They are very busy in chanting the Vedic hymns, although the purpose of the Vedic knowledge is to find me. But because they are not attracted by the names of Krishna and Balaram, you had better not ask them for anything in my name. Better ask for some charity in the name of Balaram." Charity is generally given to high-class Brahmanas, but Krishna and Balaram did not appear in a Brahman family. Balaram was also known as the son of Vasudeva, a Kshatriya, and Krishna was known in Vrindavan as the son of Nanda Maharaj, who was a Vaishya. Neither belonged to the Brahmana community. Therefore, Krishna considered that the Brahmanas engaged in performing sacrifices might not be induced to give charity to a Kshatriya and Vaishya. But at least if you utter the name of Balaram, they may prefer to give in charity to a Kshatriya rather than me, because I am only a Vaishya. These were Krishna's words. Being thus ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the boys went to the Brahmanas and began to ask for some charity. They approached him with folded hands and fell down on the ground to offer respect. "O earthly gods, kindly hear us, who are ordered by Lord Krishna and Balaram. We hope you know them both very well, and we wish you all good fortune. Krishna and Balaram are tending cows nearby, and we have accompanied them. We have come to ask for some food from you. You are all Brahmanas and knowers of religious principles. And if you think that you should give us some charity, then please give us some food, and we shall all eat along with Krishna and Balaram. You are the most respectable Brahmanas within the human society, and you are expected to know all the principles of religious procedure." Although the boys were village boys and were not expected to be learned in all the Vedic principles of religious ritual, they hinted that because of their association with Krishna and Balaram, they knew all the principles, by addressing the Brahmanas as the knowers of the religious principles. The boys expressed the point of view that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Balaram were asking for food, the Brahmana should immediately deliver some without hesitation, because, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one should perform the yajna or the sacrifice only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. The boys continued, "Lord Vishnu as Krishna and Balaram is standing waiting, and you should immediately deliver whatever food you have in your stock." They also explained to the Brahmanas when food is to be accepted and when it is not to be accepted. Generally, the Vaishnavas or the pure devotees of the Lord do not take part in ordinary sacrificial performances, but they know very well the ceremonies called Diksha, Pashu Samstha, and Shautramani. One is permitted to take food after the procedure of Diksha and before the animal sacrificial ceremony and Shautramani, or ceremony in which liquors are also offered. The boy said, "We can take your food at the present stage of your ceremony. For now, it will not be prohibited, so you can deliver us the food." Although the companions of Lord Krishna and Balaram were simple cowherd boys, they were in a position to dictate even to the high-class Brahmanas engaged in the Vedic rituals of sacrifice. But the Samarth Brahmins, who were simply sacrificial-minded, could not understand the dictation of the transcendental devotees of the Lord. They could not even appreciate the begging of the Supreme Lord Krishna and Balram. Although they heard all the arguments on behalf of Krishna and Balram, they did not care for them. They refused to speak to the boys, despite being highly elevated in the knowledge of Vedic sacrificial rites. All such non-devotee Brahmanas, although they think of themselves as very highly elevated, are ignorant and foolish persons. All their activities are childish because they do not know the purpose of Vedas, as it is explained in Bhagavad Gita, to understand Krishna. In spite of their advancement in Vedic knowledge and rituals, they do not understand Krishna, therefore their knowledge of the Vedas is useless. Lord Chaitanya therefore gave his valuable opinion that although a person may not be born in a Brahmana family, but if he knows Krishna or the science of Krishna consciousness, he is more than a Brahman, and he is quite fit to become a spiritual master. There are various details to be observed in the performances of sacrifice. They are known as Desh, that is place, Kal, that is time, Prathak, Dravya, the different detailed paraphernalia, Mantra, that is the hymns, Tantra, that is the scriptural evidences, Agni, fire, Ritvik, learned performers of sacrifices, Devata, the demigods, Yajman, the performer of the sacrifices, Kritu, the sacrifice itself, and Dharma, the procedures. All these are for satisfying Bhagavan. It is confirmed that he is the actual enjoyer of all the sacrifices because he is directly the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and the Supreme Absolute Truth beyond the conception of speculation of material senses. He is present just like an ordinary human boy, but for persons who identify themselves with the body, it is difficult to understand him. The Brahmanas were very interested in the comforts of this material body and elevation to the higher planetary residences called Swargavas. They were therefore completely unable to understand the position of Krishna. So we shall continue with our reading on Monday, how Krishna is going to deal with this naivety of the Brahmanas who are thinking they are involved in the highest sacrifice or the yagya with various mantras, tantras and everything and all the paraphernalia for the Lord. When we hear this narration further, we will realize that what is the definition of a true devotee. We've earlier heard the stealing of the garments by Lord Krishna and how gopis, they presented himself as the true unalloyed devotees of Krishna. So Prabhupada is narrating here in the Krishna book from Canto 10 about the highest elevated devotees of Krishna during that time, the Gopas, the Gopis, the mother, the father, and the little calves and cows, even the forest, everything was engrossed in the bhakti of Krishna. So I hope to join you all again tomorrow for a little talk. We will carry on Tulsi Maharani at this same time. And I wish you all a great weekend further. I shall see you tomorrow. Thank you, Narayan Keshav Prabhu and Shamita, for joining me. Hare Krishna.